She said, "You have strong shoulders. Can I borrow one for a day?" I said, "in exchange for dinner." Inside, it was anything but calm. Delegates from more than 30 species filled the station. Some walked, some floated, some glided on soft energy fields. The air was carefully balanced to support many kinds of life. Screens displayed translations in hundreds of languages. Drones moved quietly, watching everything. Humans were still rare here. Elias Rourke stood near a wall, holding a data tablet against his chest. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations. His job title was Logistics Support Officer, which meant he fixed problems nobody else wanted to deal with. A shipment late, Elias handled it. A corridor blocked, Elias found another route. Two species arguing over space, Elias quietly moved them apart. Humans were considered useful but not impressive. Other species were stronger, faster, smarter, or more advanced. Humans were adaptable. That was the word most files used. Elias did not mind. He had grown up on a mining colony where things broke often and help was rare. You learned to stay calm. You learned to carry weight, physical and emotional, without complaining. Right now, the weight in the station was heavy. The Tricycle Summit was starting in a few hours. Three powerful alliances were meeting to decide trade routes, defense zones, and shared technology. If talks failed, the galaxy would feel it. Elias watched the delegates pass. Many looked tense. Some had color changes in their skin. Others released stress pheromones that made the air feel sharp. Then he noticed her. She stood near one of the observation windows, looking out at the planet below. Her species was called the aerolith. Tall, thin, with soft silver-blue skin and eyes that reflected light like glass. Long tendrils flowed from the sides of her head, gently moving even when she stood still. Her name was Lurhattle. She was one of the main diplomats for the Aerolith Union, and she was not okay. Elias noticed it because he was trained to notice small things. Her posture was stiff. Her hands trembled slightly. The light patterns on her skin flickered unevenly. To humans, it looked beautiful. To Aerolith, it meant emotional overload. She took a slow breath. It did not help. Around her, other delegates pretended not to notice. Diplomats were not supposed to show weakness. Elias hesitated. He was not assigned to her. He had no orders to help. But something about the way she stood alone reminded him of long nights back on the colony when pressure felt like it would crush your chest. So he walked over. "Excuse me," Elias said gently. Lura turned. Her eyes focused slowly, as if she had to work to see him clearly. "Yes," she replied. Her translator made her voice soft and musical. "I'm Elias, logistics support. You look like you might need assistance." She studied him. Humans were shorter than many species, broader in the shoulders, dense and solid. Her gaze paused on his posture, relaxed, steady, grounded. "I am functioning," she said, but the flicker in her skin said otherwise. Elias nodded. "Okay, if that changes, I'm nearby." He started to step away. "Wait," she said. The word came out sharper than she meant. A few heads turned. She lowered her voice. "Human Elias," she said carefully, "may I ask you something unusual?" Elias smiled a little. "This station is built on unusual. Go ahead." She hesitated. For the Aerolith, asking for help was difficult. Their species felt emotions deeply. Stress did not fade, it stacked layer upon layer until the mind could not hold it. Finally, she spoke. "You have strong shoulders," she said. Elias blinked. That was not what he expected. "I do?" he asked. "Yes," she continued, her tone serious. "Not only physically, your presence feels stable, grounded. I observed it when you mediated the trade delay yesterday." Elias scratched the back of his neck. "I mostly just listened." "That is not common," she replied. "Among us or many others." She took another breath, then said the words that would change everything. "May I borrow one of your shoulders for a day?" Elias stared at her. Borrow a shoulder. In human culture, that meant comfort, support. Letting someone lean on you when things were heavy. He looked at her again. Up close, he could see how tired she really was. "Well," he said slowly, a small smile forming, "I usually charge for my services." Her eyes widened slightly. "Charge?" He raised a finger. "Nothing serious, just dinner. You pick the place." For a long moment Lura said nothing. Then the light on her skin steadied, just a little. "Agreed," she said. "Dinner." They did not notice the small surveillance drone hovering above them, recording everything. The day moved quickly after that. Lura stayed near Elias as meetings began. She did not lean on him physically, not yet, but she stayed close. When arguments rose, she glanced at him. When pressure built, she slowed her breathing to match his. It helped, more than helped. It stabilized her. Other diplomats noticed. The Aralith delegate was calm, focused, clear. While others showed stress, she held steady. Observers began to wonder why. Elias simply did his job. He fetched data. He guided delegates. He carried equipment. And when Lura stood beside him, he stood firm like he always had. At one point, a loud disagreement broke out between two species over mining rights. Voices rose. Energy fields flared. Lura's skin flickered dangerously. Elias did not speak. He just placed himself beside her, solid and unmoving. Slowly, her light patterns settled. The argument ended soon after. Across the station, analysts took notes. That evening, Elias kept his promise. He met Lura at a small shared dining area designed for mixed species. The lighting was soft, the gravity adjustable. The menu projected options based on biology. She chose a simple human dish after reviewing his dietary needs. He chose a mild Aralith nutrient blend. They sat across from each other. "This is acceptable," Elias said after tasting. She tilted her head. High praise from a human. They shared a quiet moment. "Why does this work?" she asked suddenly. "What?" Elias replied. "Being near you," she said. "It reduces the pressure. Our science has no explanation." Elias thought for a moment. "Humans grow up under pressure," he said simply. "We don't remove it, we learn to carry it." Lura looked at him with new interest. "You carry others as well," he shrugged. "Someone has to." Around them, the station continued its endless motion. Delegates talked, drones watched, systems calculated, and deep within the coalition's data core, a new file was created. Subject: human emotional impact. But something subtle had shifted, like the moment before a storm or before a discovery. Elias Rourke noticed it while walking through Corridor 7. People were watching him, not openly, not rudely, just quick glances, long pauses, curious looks that followed him for a second too long. He adjusted the strap of his utility bag and kept walking. Humans were still rare on the station, but this felt new. At the central conference wing, the tricycle summit resumed. Delegates gathered again, bringing tension with them like invisible baggage: trade routes, defense borders, resource control. These topics always pressed hard on minds and nerves. Luradel arrived early. She stood near the entrance, calm and steady. The light patterns on her silver-blue skin flowed smoothly like slow waves. For an Aralith under this much pressure, it was unusual, very unusual. When Elias approached, her eyes softened slightly. "Good morning, Elias," she said. "Morning," he replied. "You look better." "I feel functional," she answered, "which is significant." She paused, then added, "Your presence continues to assist." Elias gave a small smile. "Glad my shoulders are still under warranty." She did not understand the joke, but she appreciated the tone. They entered the chamber together. Inside, the discussions began. At first they were controlled, polite, formal, but as hours passed, stress returned. Voices rose. Some species reacted strongly to disagreement: color shifts, sharp movements, energy ripples. One delegate slammed a limb against the table. Another released a burst of sound that made translators flicker. Lura remained calm. Whenever pressure rose, she glanced at Elias, who stood a short distance behind her, hands folded, posture relaxed. He did not interrupt. He did not command attention. He was simply there. The effect was clear. Other delegates noticed. By midday, a Velkari negotiator leaned toward his aide and whispered, "Why is the aerolith not destabilizing?" The aide checked data screens. Unknown. Emotional indicators are within safe limits. That is impossible, the negotiator replied. They should be overwhelmed by now. Across the room, coalition observers recorded everything. During a short break, Lura stepped aside with Elias. "I believe attention is turning toward you," she said quietly. Elias sighed. "That's usually not good." "For diplomats, attention is risk," she agreed. "For humans, I am uncertain." As if summoned by the words, a tall figure approached. Director Keshvar, head of Coalition Behavioral Analysis. Keshvar's species had multiple eyes and a voice that sounded like layered echoes. "Human Elias Rourke," Keshvar said. "May I speak with you?" Elias nodded. "Of course." Lura stiffened slightly but said nothing. They moved to a side chamber. "You are not listed as a psychological specialist," Keshvar said. "I'm not," Elias replied. "I just move boxes and fix schedules." "And yet," Keshvar continued, "your proximity correlates with reduced emotional stress in at least 4 species." Elias blinked. "I didn't do anything special." "That is precisely the concern," Keshvar said. "Concern, not curiosity. You see," the director continued, "influence without intent is unpredictable." Elias crossed his arms gently. "I'm just being human." Keshvar's eyes narrowed. "That may be more powerful than you realize." By the second day, requests began, small ones at first. A Myarine analyst asked if Elias could stand nearby during a data review. A Calth engineer requested human presence during a systems test for morale stability. Elias agreed. Not because he was ordered to, because they asked. Each time the result was the same: stress lowered, focus improved, arguments ended faster, word spread quickly. Humans were not just adaptable, they were stabilizing. Lura watched this with mixed emotions. "You did not intend this," she said during another shared meal. "No," Elias replied. "I just didn't want you to burn out." She studied him. "In my culture, unintended influence is feared." "In mine," Elias said, "we call it helping." That answer stayed with her. By the third day, the coalition issued a quiet internal notice. Human Presence Protocol draft. It suggested placing humans in high-stress environments across the station, not as leaders, not as weapons, as anchors. No human was forced. They volunteered. Some were engineers. Some were medics. Some were cleaners and technicians. All carried the same calm weight. Elias found himself busier than ever, but something else changed too. He was tired, not physically, emotionally. Carrying others did not crush humans, but it was not effortless. Elias felt the familiar pressure he had known on the mining colony, the slow buildup, the quiet exhaustion. Lura noticed. "You are less rested," she said one evening. "Yeah," he admitted. "Guess my shoulders need maintenance too." She hesitated, then said softly, "May I assist you?" He looked surprised. You carried me," she said. "Allow me to return balance." She did not touch him. She simply stayed with him, speaking calmly, listening as he talked about his past. The colony, long nights. Broken systems, people relying on him. For the first time, Elias felt seen. Then the warning came. A fleet on the edge of coalition space went silent. No attack, no explosion, just silence. Intelligence reports followed quickly. An unknown power was using psychological disruption fields, weapons designed not to destroy ships but to break minds. Entire crews shut down. Command structures collapsed. Panic spread through the coalition. Emergency meetings were called. Lura stood at the center, calm but grave. "They will use this again," she said, "and next time closer." All eyes turned to the humans in the room, not because they were strongest, but because they had not broken. Keshvar spoke slowly. "We have observed that human presence counters emotional destabilization." Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "That means," the director continued, "we may need humans on the front lines." Silence filled the chamber. Elias looked around. Humans exchanged glances. No one smiled, no one celebrated, but one by one they nodded. "We'll go," Elias said quietly. Lura's light flickered. "You are not soldiers," she said. Elias met her eyes. "We don't have to be." That night, Lura stood with Elias at the observation window again. "You asked to borrow my shoulder for a day," he said. "Yes," she replied. "It looks like the galaxy wants to borrow it longer." She placed her hand near his arm, not touching but close. "You humans carry weight differently," she said. "You do not remove it, you share it." Elias looked out at the stars. "That's how we survive." Far away, unknown forces prepared their next move, and closer than anyone realized, the galaxy was learning a dangerous truth. Humans were not weak. They were load-bearing. It carried no heavy weapons, no fighter escorts, no symbols of power. Inside, it carried humans. Elias Rourke stood near the central support rail as the ship crossed into a silent sector of Coalition space. Around him were 12 other humans, men and women from different worlds, different jobs, engineers, medics, technicians. One former teacher. None of them were soldiers. They were volunteers. Outside the viewing port, stars looked dimmer here, as if space itself was holding its breath. "This is the affected zone," said the pilot, her voice steady. "No hostile ships detected. But this is where the last fleet went dark." Elias felt it before the instruments reacted. A pressure, not physical, not pain, a heavy presence pressing against the mind. One of the humans exhaled slowly. Another adjusted their stance. No one panicked. They had felt worse. The ship docked with the damaged command cruiser Silverwake. When the airlock opened, the silence inside was deep and wrong. Crew members sat frozen at stations. Some stared at screens without blinking. Others crouched in corners, hands over their heads. Their bodies were alive, but their minds were overwhelmed. A Keshvar observer floated in after them. "This is the effect," the observer said quietly. "Psychological collapse, total morale failure." Elias stepped forward. "Okay," he said calmly. "Let's get to work." They spread out slowly. Humans did not rush. They walked among the frozen crew, speaking softly, not commands, not speeches, simple words. "You're okay." The captain, a tall reptilian species, trembled violently. Stress indicators flashed red on nearby screens. Elias stood beside the captain and placed a steady hand on the console, not on the captain, just close. "I'm here," he said. "You don't have to do anything." Minutes passed. The trembling slowed. The captain's breathing matched Elias' pace. Color returned to the stress monitors. The Keshvar observer recorded everything in silence. Then the weapon activated again. It came like a wave, invisible, soundless. A crushing emotional force rolled through the ship. Painful memories surfaced. Fear sharpened, doubt screamed. One human dropped to a knee. Another clenched their jaw, eyes shut tight. Elias felt it too. The mining colony, long nights, people depending on him. Moments when he thought he would fail them. His chest tightened, but he stayed standing. "Stay with me," he said to the humans nearby. "Breathe, just breathe." They formed a loose circle without realizing it. Something happened then. The pressure did not vanish, but it slowed. Like a storm hitting a wall. The weapon was designed to overwhelm individuals. It did not expect shared weight. On the enemy's hidden monitoring station, confusion spread. Readings showed resistance. Emotional collapse should have been complete. Instead, stability points appeared, small at first, then growing. "What is causing this?" an analyst demanded. Data streamed in. The answer did not make sense. "Humans," another voice said. Back on the Silver Wake, systems slowly came back online. The captain stood. I can think again," he said. Elias smiled weakly. "Good, let's get you home." But the cost was showing. Humans were strong, but not infinite. After 6 hours, Elias' hands trembled, his head ached, his thoughts slowed. Loretto watched from a remote link, her calm breaking for the first time. "He is exceeding safe limits," she said sharply to Keshvar. "Yes," the director replied, "but he remains effective." "That does not mean he should continue," Lura said. No, Keshvar agreed quietly. But he will, because Elias did not stop. None of them did. The coalition reacted fast. More ships requested human teams. More volunteers stepped forward. No one was forced. Humans chose to go, not because they were fearless, but because they knew what it meant to carry weight alone and refused to let others do the same. Elias returned to Haven 9 between missions. He looked older, tired, but steady. Lura met him at the docking bay. "You are being used," she said, voice tight. "I know," Elias replied honestly. "That is unacceptable." He looked at her gently. "It's necessary," she shook her head. "My people believed strength was control. I was wrong." She stepped closer. "You are strong because you endure," she said, "but even endurance has limits." He nodded. "That's why we share it." Then the enemy changed tactics. The next attack was stronger, focused, targeted. A full psychological strike aimed at a human-supported fleet. Elias was aboard. The moment it hit, pain exploded through his mind. He saw failure, loss. Every time he had been too late, he fell to one knee. Around him, alien crew members cried out but did not collapse. They felt the attack, but Elias was absorbing most of it. Lura screamed through the link, "Pull him back!" But Elias pushed himself up. "No," he said through clenched teeth, "if I fall, they fall." He took a step forward, then another. The pressure peaked, and then it broke, not the humans, the weapon. The shared comm reflected the force back into itself. The enemy system overloaded. Silence returned. Elias collapsed, not unconscious, but empty. Crew members caught him. For the first time, humans did not stand alone. Afterward, the galaxy changed its language. Humans were no longer called support units. They were called anchors, but Elias knew the truth. Anchors still need solid ground. As he rested in the medical bay, Lura sat beside him. "You gave more than you should have," she said softly. He smiled weakly. "Guess dinner S on me next time." She placed her hand gently over his. "No," she said. "Next time you lean." Outside, the stars watched quietly. The enemy had learned something dangerous. Humans could endure psychological war. But what terrified them more? Humans endured together, in the dark edges of space, far from coalition worlds. Their thinkers studied the data again and again. Weapons had failed, fear had failed, silence had failed, but one truth stood out clearly. Humans were not unbreakable. They were exhaustible. That became the new plan. Elias Rourke woke in the medical bay on Haven 9, staring at a white ceiling that hummed softly. His body felt heavy, like gravity had doubled. For the first time in weeks, the pressure was gone, and the emptiness scared him. Lorettel sat beside his bed, her hands folded carefully in her lap. The light patterns on her skin were calm but tight, like controlled water behind glass. "You should still be unconscious," she said. Elias tried to smile. It came out weak. "Yeah, doctors always say that." "You exceeded human tolerance limits," she said, repeatedly. "I had help," he replied. She leaned forward slightly. "That is not the point." He turned his head to look at her. "Then what is?" She hesitated, "something rare for her species." "You humans keep giving," she said slowly, "even when there is nothing left to give." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. "If we stop, others fall." Silence filled the space between them. Across the station, alarms did not sound, but tension grew. Reports came in. More attacks, wider range, shorter recovery times between strikes. The enemy had learned to pulse the psychological weapon. Not one crushing blow, many small ones, enough to wear humans down. Coalition command met in emergency session. Holographic figures filled the chamber, flickering with stress indicators. Species that once argued fiercely now spoke with fear in their voices. "We cannot continue like this," said a fleet commander. "Our crews depend on humans to function." "And humans are collapsing," replied another. Director Keshvar spoke last. "The enemy strategy is endurance erosion," the director said. "They are draining humanity." Eyes turned toward the human representatives. No one denied it. Elias was not supposed to attend the meeting. He attended anyway. He walked in slowly, still unsteady but upright. Lura followed him, her expression sharp. "You should be resting," she whispered. "Later," Elias replied. The room quieted as he entered. "We can't keep doing this the same way," Elias said calmly. "They're right, we're burning out." A ripple of unease spread. "But," he continued, "that doesn't mean we stop." Some heads lifted. "We change how we carry the weight." He gestured to the display behind him. "Right now, humans are acting like shields, absorbing everything." "That is effective," Keshvar said. "It's not sustainable," Elias replied. "Shields break." He took a breath. "What we need is structure." Lura's eyes widened slightly. "Share the load," Elias said. "Not just among humans, among everyone." Confusion spread. "Your species feel deeply," he continued, looking around the room. "You care. You support each other in different ways, but you've been taught that pressure is dangerous." He shook his head. "Pressure is part of life. Humans just live with it longer." Silence followed. Then Lura spoke. "My people rely on emotional harmony," she said. "We avoid stress." "And when stress comes?" Elias asked gently. "We break," she admitted. He nodded. "Then learn from us, not to carry everything, just enough." The plan was risky. Human volunteers would no longer stand alone. They would form mixed crews, teaching others how to ground themselves. Breathing, focus, presence. Not removing fear, standing beside it. Some doubted it would work. The enemy certainly did. The next attack came quickly. Stronger than before. A coalition defense station near a populated system was hit with a sustained psychological pulse. Panic rippled across multiple decks. This time, humans were not the only anchors. Elias watched from command as feeds came in. An Aerolith officer stood beside a human engineer, matching breathing. A Velkari medic placed a clawed hand on a console, steadying themselves instead of running. A Myarine pilot spoke calmly to their crew, voice shaking, but present. The effect was slower, messier, but it held. The weapon strained, the enemy pushed harder. On the station itself, Elias felt the backlash. A sharp wave of exhaustion hit him without warning. His knees buckled. Lura caught him. "Enough," she said firmly. He shook his head. "Not yet." "You taught us to share the weight," she said. "Now let us do it." She helped him sit. Around them, non-human officers stepped closer, not to lean on him, to stand with him. The pressure eased, just a little, enough. The enemy reacted with frustration. They increased the range again, but something unexpected happened. The more they pushed, the more resistance appeared, not from humans alone, but from the coalition as a whole. Emotional networks formed naturally. Species learned from humans. Humans learned from others. The weapon lost efficiency. Its creators did not understand why. That night, Elias sat in the quiet observation chamber, staring at the stars. "I was afraid," he admitted softly. Lura stood beside him. "Of breaking?" she asked. "Of not being enough," he replied. She placed her hand gently on his arm. "You were never meant to be everything," she said. "Only something." He smiled faintly. "Funny, humans forget that too." The enemy prepared one final move, a concentrated strike, focused not on fleets but on Haven 9. The heart of coordination, the place where humans rested, the place where Elias was. If they broke the shoulders here, the galaxy would fall. Alarms finally sounded. Red lights flashed. "Psychological surge detected," a voice announced. "Maximum intensity." Elias stood. So did everyone else, human and non-human alike. No one ran, no one screamed, they braced. The wave hit, harder than anything before. Elias felt his thoughts shake, but he was not alone. Hands touched his shoulders, steady, grounded, shared. Lura stood directly in front of him, eyes locked with his. "You are not carrying us," she said clearly. "We are carrying each other." The pressure screamed, then cracked, then failed. Silence returned. Haven 9 still stood. The enemy weapon went dark. Across the coalition, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a weakness to exploit. It was a lesson learned. Elias sank into a chair, breathing hard. Lura smiled fully, brightly. "You asked for dinner in exchange for a shoulder," she said. He laughed weakly. "Worst trade deal ever," she shook her head. "The best." Outside, the stars seemed closer than before, and somewhere far away the enemy realized too late they had not been fighting humans. They had been fighting what humans teach others to become. On Haven 9, lights slowly returned to normal. Emergency screens dimmed. Systems reported green across the station. No alarms, no panic, just the soft hum of life continuing. People stood where they were. No one rushed to celebrate. They were too busy breathing. Elias Rourke sat in a chair near the central atrium, head lowered, hands resting on his knees. His shoulders felt heavy but not broken. For the first time since this all began, the weight was not only his. Luradel remained beside him. Around them stood beings from many worlds, tall and short, scaled and smooth, bright and dark. They did not touch Elias to take strength, they touched him to give it. Director Keshvar approached quietly. "It is over," the director said. Elias looked up. "For real?" "Yes," Keshvar replied. "The enemy network collapsed during the feedback surge. Their weapon cannot function against distributed emotional resistance." Elias let out a long breath. "We didn't beat them," he said softly. "We outlasted them." Lura nodded. "You showed us how." In the days that followed, the galaxy changed its habits, not loudly, not all at once, but clearly. Coalition fleets reorganized. Human presence was no longer treated as a tool or resource. Instead, training programs were created, human endurance methods they were called, though humans disliked the name. Humans taught simple things: how to breathe through stress, how to stay present during fear, how to listen without fixing. Other species taught humans too. How to rest properly, how to release pressure instead of storing it, how to accept help without guilt. Elias watched it happen with quiet disbelief. "What did we start?" he asked Lura one evening. She smiled gently. "Balance." The Coalition Council held a formal session a week later. It was not a victory ceremony. It was a recognition. Director Keshvar addressed the chamber. "Humanity entered the coalition labeled as adaptable," the director said. "We now understand that this word was insufficient." Images appeared, humans standing in silent halls, on bridges, in command centers, beside strangers who needed them. "Humans do not remove suffering," Keshvar continued. "They stand with it, and in doing so they make others stronger." The council voted unanimously. Humanity was given a new designation, emotional pillars of the coalition. Elias was not impressed. "They make it sound like we don't get tired," he muttered. Lura leaned closer. "But now they know you do." That night, Elias returned to the observation window where everything had begun. The gas giant below glowed softly, bands of blue and gold swirling endlessly. It reminded him that pressure, when held too long, could shape something beautiful or destroy it. Lara joined him. "You will leave soon," she said. "Yeah," Elias replied. "My contract ends. There's a colony station that keeps requesting my name specifically." She was quiet for a moment. "Will you return?" she asked. He shrugged. "Depends who's asking." She looked at him directly. "I am." He smiled. "In that case, probably." They shared dinner again, not because of a deal, because they wanted to. This time they laughed more. The tension that once wrapped around them was gone. The galaxy felt lighter, not because problems were gone, but because they were shared. "You know," Elias said, "back home, asking for someone's shoulder means trusting them." Lura nodded. "Among my people it means admitting weakness." "And now?" he asked. "It means survival," she said simply. Far from Haven 9, the remnants of the enemy observed quietly. They did not plan another attack. They did not need to. They understood now. Weapons that targeted fear could not defeat beings who accepted fear as part of life. You could not break what leaned together. Elias prepared to leave the station. As he walked through the docking corridor, he noticed something small, but important. People were calmer, not fearless. Calmer. Humans passed non-humans, exchanging nods, quiet words, shared pauses. No one pretended pressure did not exist anymore. They simply did not face it alone. Lura stopped him at the airlock. "I never thanked you," she said. "For what?" Elias asked. "For that first day," she replied. "When I asked to borrow your shoulder," he chuckled. "I charged you dinner." She stepped closer. "You gave me more than support," she said. "You gave my people a future where we do not collapse under expectation." He looked at her, surprised. "I just stood there," he said. She smiled. "Yes," she said, "that was enough." As the ship pulled away from Haven 9, Elias looked back at the station. It no longer felt like a place of tension. It felt like a meeting point, a place where the galaxy learned something simple and powerful. Strength was not about standing tall alone. It was about standing together when standing was hard. Elias rested his head back against the seat. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to feel tired. And for the first time, he did not feel guilty about it.